Terrific to get a chance to catch up with Assistant Fire Chief Jody Rowell of the city of Hardeeville because fire season is upon us. We witnessed last week a whole lot of stuff going on up near Myrtle Beach, and we want to catch up on that and then also talk about open burning here in the Lowcountry. Chief Rowell, let's talk about Myrtle Beach a little bit. Have we got everybody back for the weekend rains? Help us out, and have we got everybody back here in the fire departments here in the Lowcountry?
Most of the jurisdictions, a lot of their folks have returned. There's still a few that are probably going to make their way back as we're speaking today, but most of them have returned back to the Lowcountry.
It, of course, talked about burn bans and all of that last week. We got an education on that. I would imagine those have expired in our part of the state, and yet burn bans are something we should be talking about all the time, especially when it's been as dry as it's been.
Yeah, typically the burn bans are put in place by forestry, the South Carolina Forestry Commission, when relative humidity as well as winds and some other, the absence of rain have kind of come together to create a perfect storm. Is definitely something we have to look at, but most of the counties, with the exception of two, are still are able to burn.
Okay, we are among those who are able to burn, I imagine.
We are.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure I didn't leave us out there. Talk about that. Were you guys holding your breath the last week or so because of the high winds here and the fairly low humidities and the lack of rain?
We did have a few occurrences in the city as well as some of our neighboring jurisdictions that it can escalate pretty quickly. The low humidity is kind of our enemy here. We're used to the kind of the tropical humid air, and it definitely doesn't work in our favor as firefighters.
I would imagine not. The woman who has been arrested in Myrtle Beach was not your typical arsonist. She was trying to set a little fire in her burn pit in the backyard, in a fire pit. But she did not have a water source close by and did not have garden tools close by. I would imagine that's something you guys encourage anyone who's going to have any kind of fire outdoors.
Having outdoor tools as well as a water source whenever you're doing your burning around your home is definitely a necessity. It definitely helps you in case the fire does get out of control. Now, keep in mind, most municipalities have a little bit different burn regulations than those unincorporated areas. So make sure that you check with the right agency before you do burn and get the right permissions.
That's good. That's a good point to make, because it's not any kind of a universal thing unless we get into a situation like we were in last week where the state comes in and mandates something. Every town has its own little idiosyncrasies, don't they?
They absolutely do. And the more development that happens in certain areas, some of the restrictions get a little bit different.
Sure, I can imagine that. How about the city of Hardeeville? You guys are witnessing so much growth now. What are the differing concerns, and how are concerns changing in Hardeeville with regard to open burning?
So in years past, the city of Hardeeville was large land timber tracts. And every spring, those landowners would burn those things for fuel reduction as well as wildlife and some other agricultural purposes. Now that you're starting to see what we call urban development, you don't have those practices being done. And but we do allow residential burning as well as some of the other burning. It gets a little complicated. And then you have a lot of folks that move from elsewhere that's never seen outdoor burning. So this is all new culture to them.
Absolutely. So the best advice then is, again, check with your town government to make sure everything is okay. Thank you so much, Assistant Fire Chief of the City of Hardeeville, Jody Rowell. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for having us.
We want to thank all of our guests for making us just a little bit smarter over the last 30 minutes. If you missed anything at all, we'll be back in 90 minutes. I'm Bob Stevens.